Welcome back to our discussion on the Lucifer Myth. We are now going to talk about the translation which turned everything around.
The Latin Vulgate.
The Latin Vulgate
Right.
translation. We've spoken to you about the Masoretic text. We've spoken to you about the Greek Septuagint, both of which agree with each other on the interpretation and translation of Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12.
Okay, so first, before you even go any further, tell us about the Latin Vulgate.
Okay, so we're projecting ourselves beyond Alexander the Great and his occupation of the known world or the ancient Near East, the Hellenistic period. Following the Greek domination, we have the arrival of the Romans. And the Romans now defeat the Greeks, and Roman culture and Roman worldview are now the things imposed upon the people living in the ancient Near East, with in particular the Jews living in Judah and all over the known world. Remember, we said in the last section that the Jews, after leaving Babylon, some of them stayed in Babylon, some of them came back to Jerusalem, some of them went into other places in the world. And specifically, we spoke about those that went into Alexandria and needed a Greek translation of Torah, which led to the creation of the Greek Septuagint translation. But now we are in the Roman period.
Yeah.
And the language spoken in the Roman period was Latin.
Yeah, crazy enough. Yeah.
They spoke Latin. And now we need another translation of Torah, of the Septuagint, because now the language of the day is Latin. We have a man or a pope by the name of Pope Damasus I, who decided that all of these Latin translations that had made the appearance here and there because of the need for a Latin translation of the Hebrew text and of the Greek text. We had these little Latin translations coming up all over the place. There was no agreement between them. They were individual interpretations of different scholars. And Pope Damasus I says, we need a translation that is consistent, that we are able to use as the Latin text, that gives us agreement and that we can use as a standard text for our society and for our churches. And so he calls upon a man by the name of Eusebius Sophronius Hieronymus. We know him as Jerome.
Which is much easier.
Which is so much easier.
Wow.
And Jerome had some particular talents which Pope Damasus had recognized. Jerome could speak Hebrew fluently, understand it and speak it. Jerome spoke Greek and read Greek and understood Greek. And Jerome spoke Latin and understood Latin. So his qualifications to now translate those two translations into Latin, they were the best that could be found.
So his background was Latin? Or don't we know that?
I don't know what his background was. It's.
I mean, if he had knew all those languages, he probably had a knowledge of all of those.
Probably, and his name probably reflects a change of culture as well.
Yeah.
But the point is, Hieronymus Jerome was qualified for this task. And he leaves Rome, he travels to Israel, and he takes up residence in a little room in what today is known as the Church of Nativity. And there he begins his translation of the Torah into Latin, or the biblical text into Latin. He uses the Hebrew Masoretic text. He uses the Septuagint. He uses other Latin texts. He uses the advice and tutorship of leading Hebrew scholars around him in an effort to get the most accurate Latin text available. And he gets to work and he starts to translate this biblical text. And everything, as far as we know, goes fine until he gets to Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 12. We know what the Masoretic text says, Helel ben Shachar, bright shining son of the morning. We know what the Greek says, Heōsphoros, dawn bringer, light bringer. And here we have Jerome. He gets to this point and he says, okay, now I need to translate this. I need to look at all my sources. But remember what we said about context. Remember what we said about culture.
So he's in Bethlehem right now at the moment?
In the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, yeah. And he is sitting down and he's getting to work at making his translation.
So his knowledge and context where he is, it's got to be Hebrew. Or not really?
Well, he was fluent in Hebrew.
Yeah, he was.
But he was also fluent in Greek and Latin.
Yeah.
So that much we don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
What we do know is his qualifications were the best.
Yeah. Okay.
And Pope Damasus chooses him to make the translation. He was looking for a standardized Latin text that they could use throughout the known world, throughout the Latin world.
And he primarily used the Hebrew text.
Yeah. Well, the Hebrew text was the closest to the original. Remember, the Greek Septuagint is a translation.
Yeah, but yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, he would obviously do that then.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jerome gets to work, and the result of his work was the Vulgata Edito, or which is commonly known as the common translation, or common version. The version for the common people, which eventually became known as the Vulgate.
Yeah.
But what is important about the Vulgate is this translation of this one verse, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. He came to Heōsphoros, he came to Helel ben Shachar. He looked it up in the Greek and he saw what the words meant. And instead of using the same words with the same translation, the Greek word Heōsphoros, he goes to another Greek word. And he goes to the word laike, from the word likios. And laike also means light bringer. It also refers to, and it can refer to the Venus, the morning star. So I will try my best to read the Latin translation that Jerome comes up with. Commodo cecidisti de Caleo Lucifer. Recognize the name? Lucifer. Where does he get that name from?
Yeah.
Remember what I said? He chose a different Greek word. He chose the word laike from laikeos, meaning day star, meaning basically meaning the same thing as Heōsphoros and Helel ben Shachar, but Lukeos also refers to light God.
Well, you say that the Latin is compiled from two words, lux, meaning light, and feri, meaning to bear.
Right. Lux, fer.
And
light,
literally means light bearer.
So light bearer. So lux feros would have been light bearer, but he goes to the word laike, and which is from laikeos, and that means light bearer, light bringer, but also means the light God. And remember we said that context, culture, and all these influences of different dynasties is important, and here the Roman influence is important because we have reference here to this Greek god Apollo, who is called the light god, and is prevalent in Israel at the time. And it also refers to the Greek god Pan. And Pan was worshipped in Israel at that time.
What about the Greek god Apollo?
Well, a Greek god Apollo, I'm not sure if he was worshipped, but I know that there's a crossover between these two gods. You see, the Greek gods didn't have their totally separate spheres. There was a lot of crossover. So one would cross over with the other. So in places where Apollo was dominant, you would find references to Pan. In places where Pan was dominant, you'd find references to Apollo.
And just as a matter of interest, we're talking about the 4th century now.
Yes.
Yeah.
4th century Israel. And these Greek gods were still known and were worshipped. And so we can assume, now this is not fact, but we can assume that this affected Jerome's choice of words when he chose the word laike instead of lux fere or Heōsphoros. He chose the word laike or laikeos. Now, Hebrew scholars at that point in time, when they heard the translation and using that word and those terms, would not have worried at all. They wouldn't have been concerned at all, because the laikeos still meant light bringer.
Yeah, or light god.
Yeah.
Light bearer, actually.
Light bearer.
Yeah.
The one who bears the light, lux fere. So they wouldn't have really had any exception to that, because there was at this time still no connection with Lucifer or Satan. But when Jerome translated the word Helel ben Shachar or Heōsphoros, he came up with the Latin word Lucifer. And I'm not sure if he used it as a common noun or a proper noun, but Lucifer became the Latin translation of that phrase. So important to remember.
What phrase?
Of Helel ben Shachar and Heōsphoros.
Okay.
So he chose Lucifer.
That's a far stretch, that.
Right. And that's the first time that we see this name appear in the biblical text. And it is the only time that we see this name appear in the biblical text. So how does a name, and this is the question we need to ask, how does a name that is mentioned once in the biblical text become so important and become the personal name of Satan and the devil? How does that happen? It's not inferred by the Masoretes. It's not inferred by the Jewish scholars of the Septuagint. It's not inferred by any scholar up until that time, until Jerome makes this translation Lucifer, and it is then connected with Apollo and the Greek god Pan.
Although you say Jerome's translation was also influenced by the way the early church interacted with pagan imagery and mythology throughout the Roman world.
Important.
Yeah, as Christianity spread into Greek and Roman cultures, features associated with pagan deities were increasingly absorbed into Christian portrayals of evil spirits and Satan.
So here we have this culture creeping in. This Roman culture, this association with pagan gods and goddesses and mythological figures. We spoke about the Greek gods that influenced the Jewish theology, and we spoke about Hades. Hades being the god of the dead, who ushered people into the dead through the gates of hell, and we spoke about that in our last session in Adversary to Accuser. For those of you who didn't read that or weren't or haven't listened to that yet, the gates of hell was a place at Panias, Caesarea Philippi, where Jesus went with his disciples, and he stood in front of the temple dedicated to the Greek god Pan, who was worshipped in Israel at that time. And he says to Peter, he says, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And Peter says, "Atahu Mashiach, ben ha-Elohim ha-Chayim." You are the Messiah, the Son of the God who lives. And what was he actually saying? They were standing in front of the temple of Pan. He was saying, you are the Messiah, the Son of the God who lives, as opposed to this God is worshipped in this place, Pan, who does not live.
Yeah.
And the cave that stood behind the temple to Pan was a cave that opened up into what they believed then was the underworld, the abode of Hades, called Hades, and that cave was referred to as the gates of hell. And Jesus says to Peter, says, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven."
Yeah.
And the gates of hell, they're standing right in front of the cave. It says, and the gates of hell, all the powers of hell and the underworld and all of Greek mythology and Roman gods and pagans and pagan gods will not prevail against the truth that you have come to realize, that I am the Messiah, the Son of the living God.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's close up this.
Okay, just before we close, I just want to read this because I think this is important. One notable example is the Greek god Pan, which we talked about now. The horned woodland deity associated with wilderness, chaos, sexually and fear, panic, which his name is
Panic is called after Pan.
Artistic depictions of Pan with goat legs, horns, and wild appearance strongly influenced later medieval Christian imagery of the devil. Over time, these pagan visual traditions merged with interpretations of Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28, contributing to the development of a fully personified and mythologized Lucifer figure that extended far beyond the original biblical and Hebrew text.
So there you have it.
That's it.
It's set out there. This is a depiction, an artistic depiction of the Greek god Pan. You can see the similarities to our, or the picture we have in our minds of the devil. And what he looks like and what he does. And so these mythological images began to infiltrate not only Judaism but Christianity, and this whole concept, this whole personage of the devil, of Satan, begins to evolve and begins to emerge out of translation, out of culture, out of religion, out of the context of the day. And we see that Satan is now starting to appear. And all of this put together, Lucifer, the Latin word translating Helel ben Shachar, suddenly becomes, goes from common noun to a proper noun, Lucifer. And Lucifer now becomes the name applied to this evil deity, this evil adversary that seems to be appearing on the religious scene in Judaism and Christianity, that later became to known as Satan, whom we call the devil.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we've given you a lot to think about. It's been really interesting. And stay tuned, and we're going to start, I don't know, the next chapter is Ezekiel.
We're going to look at Ezekiel chapter 28, the Prince of Tyre.
Yeah, that's our next one, and we hope to see you then.
Don't forget, these books are all available to you on Amazon. They're short little books, easy to read. Everything is in there. The stuff that we can't cover in these discussions is in those books. Don't forget.
Great resource.
It's an awesome resource. And if you have questions about what we're saying, take those books, look through them, and do your research yourself. A lot of this research is already in there. References are in there. Translations are in there. And you can make up your mind for yourself. But thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.